Hello YouTube.com, this is Ben Ash at BA Guitar Tuition and welcome to a crossover episode between BA Guitar Tuition and Ben's Rock Blog. Reason being is that due to time constraints I wasn't able to put the time video up onto my blog channel, so it's here at BA Guitar Tuition. But there is also a relevancy of putting it up here because if it wasn't for this particular artist who I'm going to be covering, I wouldn't be speaking to you now because it's the main influence to why I play guitar. So without further ado, hope you enjoyed the video and we'll see you at the end for some roundup details. Hi folks, this is Ben's Rock Blog and guess what? It's Van Halen time. In today's Rock Blog, what we'll be doing is reviewing the new Van Halen release, A Different Kind of Truth, that was released on Interscope Records. And to start off with, as you probably guess, yes, I am a Van Halen nut. Eddie's the guy who got me playing guitar in the first place, and if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be talking to you here and right now. So I've got a massive debt of gratitude towards Van Halen, but the thing is, at the same time, I'm trying to be fairly subjective because Van Halen weren't necessarily without a checkered past, musically and personally. So what we're going to do as we go through this album is address a few of the issues that have happened to this band throughout their history and why this is actually such a significant and quite amazing comeback that they've actually done with this record. So let's get started. The first thing you would have heard on this album would have been the single Tattoo that was doing around in early January. And I must admit, it's had a pretty lukewarm reception. Even though commercially it's been pretty popular and it's been on a lot of radio stations, it's not really been that well received by the fans. I mean, to me, it just screamed of old hat. There wasn't really any relevancy in the particular song itself. The lyrics were retarded, and overall it just seemed really, really limp-wristed. And for a comeback single, just wasn't cutting the mustard really. And if you were to actually judge that particular single, and feel, well, am I going to get the rest of the album? You probably run a mile. But to be honest, this song is a complete and utter red herring. The first official song on this is got to be She's the Woman, which is actually taken from one of their original demos. I do believe the 1976 demo that got them signed to Warner Brothers in the first place. And as soon as you actually hear that initial screaming guitar with the wah coming in and that chromatic bass line, and when the groove hits, bang! You're back into the old school Van Halen territory, and Dave sounds absolutely fantastic on this as well. He's absolutely grooving, and all these kind of rude, crude lyrics that he does as well, it really, really fits in with this particular song. And unlike Tattoo, where Dave just sounds completely uncomfortable, whereas a song like that nature would have been more suitable to, let's say, Sammy Hagar, who, well, the Van Hagar era, which is a lot more kind of foreigner-esque AOR kind of fodder. The rest of the record, thank God, is going back to more the rootsy Van Halen that we all know and all love, basically. Stay Frosty is one of my faves. Absolutely killer tune. It's actually a tune that ended up being reinvented to the first record under the name of the Ice Cream Man, and has a real kind of good, nice 12-bar boogie feel to it. And the thing is with Van Halen, they always used to have tracks like this all the time. They were quite a goofy band in some respects, looks and music. They never really kind of played it straight. And the albums I would actually say this is akin to would be somewhere between Van Halen 2 and Fair Warning, because of all those really, really cool 70s grooves to it, that really, really solid punchy rock tone, and also having those sort of bubblegum choruses. A really good example of, let's say, the bubblegumness of this album would be Blood and Fire, which kind of harks back to Eddie's love of The Who, you know, with those kind of riffs that it kind of screams of all those kind of little happy diode riffs all over the place. And Dave sounds really, really great on here as well. And the nice thing about it, it shows a real range of dynamic in the band. Because Van Halen are actually put akin to a band like Thin Lizzy. They weren't all just about screaming guitar solos, big chords all the time. They did a lot of softer stuff as well, you know. Just one of of Eddie's many instrumentals he used to throw into a lot of his solos. But they used to have a lot of dynamic range, and this is a fantastic tune. And if they were brave enough, I would have actually said this should have actually been the single, because it's got so many hooks to it, and it's got loads of dynamic range, and of course, once again, a great big Eddie Van Halen guitar solo. Eddie is just playing like an absolute possessed maniac on this record. It really feels like he's trying to actually prove his worth, you know, and actually, you know, put his benchmark again. Because what was great in the early Van Halen records is every record he was always trying out slightly different techniques, whether it was, let's say, big tapping runs, whether it was going for trill breaks, it was going for big dive bombs, or just, you know, really kind of, you know, intricate kind of chord progressions and whatnot. He was always trying to push himself, and then there was a point where he just felt like he just stopped trying and just went down to the original Rick bag, basically. This is a really return to form for Eddie's standards as a guitar player, and for all those who thought he was completely washed up. You know, if you saw, let's say, footage of when he played the NAMM festival, where he was just out of his mind on booze, or let's say various footage where he's been playing at home and always had temper tantrums on stage, and the ghastly bloody bit of footage where they were playing Jump out of key. If you really want to subject yourself, check it out over here. Oh, horrible, horrible. Scarred me for life. But it's not just a Van Halen show in here, no sir. It's really great to see, in my personal opinion, Alex Van Halen actually playing straight rock grooves again. Because for a long period of time, Alex has just been kind of exploring more his jazzy side of things, and the drum production on a lot of records. The toms and the bass drum are kind of sounding really woofy, and it's very snare heavy. It kind of reminded me very much of listening to, let's say, drummers like Buddy Rich, for example, where the heart is really in the snare. And the thing is, Alex Van Halen, even though you have those musical interests, you want to kind of push yourselves a little bit, it doesn't really fit with this kind of music. And on this particular album, he's gone right back to what he's good at, and is being a good, solid rock drummer. If you listen to, let's say, grooves like She's the Woman, absolutely fantastic. But also when he's going double pelt with the double kick drum on songs like Chinatown and As Is, it just sounds so killer. It really does. And it's clear as a bell. You can hear every single part of that kit really well. And a real surprise for me was how proficient Wolfgang is on bass. I mean, obviously having Eddie as a, you know, as a mentor is not going to do you any harm at all, but the thing is, Michael Anthony was such a key thing in this band. He had a real larger than life personality, and also was quite handy with his chops as well, with a lot of range. And what's great on here is Wolf is pretty much matching in some parts Eddie lick for lick. And with tunes like, say, The Trouble with Never, you know, the intro of that, it's just fast as hell. It sounds so cool, and it just sounds huge. And when Wolfie first comes out, and let's say songs like She's the Woman, the bass just kicks through your speakers. It really does. And I don't want to use the cliche of it feels like the band are in your room at all, but to a certain degree it really does. And what I'm amazed is just how energetic this whole album is. The nearest comparison I'll say for, let's say, comeback records of recent year, it really parallels with, let's say, Judas Priest's Angel of Rebellion, because it really harks back to what Van Halen were really good at in the first place, and that's being a good, kick-ass, fun party rock band. And it also, it's kind of a tribute to a lot of the stuff they did through that early period with David Lee Roth. Tunes such as She's the Woman, which actually went on to become, evolved into the song Mean Street, which opened up Fair Warning. You've also got tunes such as, I said, Blood and Fire, really reminiscent of Top Jimmy, which was on the 1984 album. And a fantastic tune I've got to mention is Big River. I mean, just that fat bass sort of hitting over again, which is completely akin to tunes like Running with the Devil, the opening track from their legendary debut album. And the great thing about all these songs is that to really give a sort of acid test to it, what I did was I put it in the playlist amongst all the old records, and seamlessly, if you were listening to Women and Children first, Van Halen 2, or going to a different kind of truth, it just flows through absolutely seamlessly. And that's a real fantastic test of fortitude for this material. Because what I was really worried about was, okay, these are tunes written in the heyday, you know, for their classic period. But the thing is, if they weren't good enough to put on the records at the time, are they going to be good enough now? And all I can say is, hell yes, absolutely fantastic. But it isn't without criticism. Here's the grief I have. Now, we've talked about Wolfie, talked about Eddie, we've talked about Alex. Now we go on to the contentious subject of Dave Lee Roth. Now, Diamond Dave, I honestly believe he should have been born and grown up as a game show host. I mean, he's got bubbling charisma and personality, but the thing is, he's not really looked after his chops in the vocal department, and he really can touch Sammy Hagar with a barge pole. I'm sorry to offend all you Van Halen fans out there, especially the old school fans, but really, Dave was an entertainer, Sammy was more a musician and singer. And that's the problem, you see, because even though Sammy Hagar was, technically speaking, a lot better proficiently in a musical sense than Dave Lee Roth, he just wasn't the entertainer that Dave was. And that's the yin and yang, you know, the to Van Halen's mastery of the instruments, and obviously, you know, Alex being a proficient bass player and Mike Anthony at the time being a damn good bass player, was that Dave just kept the whole circus rolling with all this, you know, this chaos going. He was kind of the ringmaster, you know, the nutty jester of rock and roll. And what's fantastic hearing him again is that I think we're missing a lot of that in rock music at the moment. Everything's so stiff and it's so unbelievably pompous. No one actually has the will to kind of, you know, poke a bit of fun at themselves. And Dave, he knows his shortcomings, but at the same time he knows his strengths, and that really shines in this record. Apart from a few duds where it looks like they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, such as on Honey Baby, Sweetie Doll, which the main riff is a complete and utter lift of Rainbow's The Gates of Babylon, and has a slight new metal vibe in the actual verses where Dave is trying to rap and sounding more like hip hop, hippity hop, hip hip hop, don't stop, I was cool back in the day. Yeah, Dave, oh, it's just a little bit cringeworthy. And also on songs like Outer Space, when you're making references to your Facebook page and whatnot, it's not going to impress any of the kids, it's not cool. But let's say all the little sly little winks you do on songs like Blood and Fire, where he just, in the middle of the breakdown, he goes, I told you I'd be back. It's classic Dave, and that's the sort of thing we want from him. We want the jester, we want the guy who is obnoxious, he's loud and, you know, loud and larger than life. We want that. We don't want the old guy who's trying to keep up with the Joneses at all. So, you know, Dave, you know, a little bit of quality control in those lyrics, please. When he's singing more mid-range, on songs like You and Your Blues, he sounds great, sounds really, really good in this. And also, if you get the deluxe edition, there's the Downtown sessions, where there is a fantastic acoustic version of this song. And what's lovely about that recording is seeing the unquestionable chemistry between all the guys in the room. Even though, let's say, if you go back for their personal history, it's pretty much bottom record that they, you know, Dave and Eddie and Alex pretty much hate one another. Well, Alex and Eddie on one side, Dave on the other. You know, they're not the biggest fans personally of one another, but when it comes down to the music, there's no mucking around, and they work absolutely beautifully here. And that's the really, really wonderful thing about this record, is that unlike a lot of the reunions that have actually been just shoved out just to kind of make a quick bit of money, there seems to be a lot of love and attention and care in the music. And that really, really shines through. So even though, let's say, younger listeners might possibly look at this and think, well, it's a little bit corny, you know, what relevance does this have to me? The great thing about this is it's a fun record. It's a really, really fun record. And the fact that, you know, these guys are all, you know, pushing late 50s, early 60s, they're just absolutely kicking so much arse. It's untrue. Absolutely untrue. And I was really not expecting this at all. I was fully expecting just to pick this album up, put it in the folder with the rest of the Van Halen collection, just go, well, that completes the collection, I won't touch it again. But literally, since I bought it, I've just been running it and running it and running it. It's a fantastic record. The band are tight as you like. The production's really nice and clear, but it's also got that raw vibe to it as well, which is great. And as I said, it just feels really seamlessly between all the old stuff on a playlist. So I can highly recommend this record. I'd actually give it a good solid 8.5 out of 10. Reason being is that obviously there are going to be critics who are going to slate it a little bit for its originality, because obviously, you know, it's not brand new material, it's sourced back for the old demos. But in saying that, you know, if you've got material this good and it's sitting around and you want to capture something for the fans, and that's the important thing, this record is really for the fans first and foremost. Anyone who's going to go out and buy this and, you know, has their ingredients on the tin of what they want for a Van Halen album, this is the one that's going to deliver. And it's been a damn long time since a Van Halen album has really ticked all the boxes like this one. This is just an absolute revelation to hear Eddie playing this well again, and also the chemistry of the band, as I said, is absolutely undeniable. So do yourselves a favour, go and pick up this record, because with all the crap that's going on in the world at the moment, whether it be economical, religious or political upheaval all over the world, it just feels like the place has gone absolutely balmy. I think we're all owed a Van Halen album, because life is short. Enjoy yourself while you can, you know, and rock out with this record. It's an absolute gem. And I said the reason why I didn't give it a full 9 out of 10, or probably even a 10 out of 10, because it's the early stages and it does take time for these records to mature, but it is a really, really good solid record. So do check it out. Van Halen, Different Kind of Truth on Interscope Records. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. Hope you found it enjoyable and insightful. And if you're after any more blogs, reviews or any topical rock and metal news, the best alternative is to go to my blog channel, which you can click over here to subscribe. Alternatively, stick around here to check out some more tutorials. There will be a new one coming up soon, where we'll be going all the way to Norway to cover the black metal band Immortal and some of their alternative guitar stylings. A little bit different to what I've done before, but some quite exciting stuff. So in the meantime, keep rocking folks, stay inspired, have a good Valentine's Day, and we'll see you all soon. Keep rocking folks.